Have you ever asked yourself why some women settle for toxic relationships? Perhaps it may be as a result of low self-esteem, past experiences of violence, seeking approval. Or what do you think? Victoria suffers the same hell for no reasons here, also from her husband, Michael. The fact that she came back from work late was the reason why he beat her blue-black. Victoria went to the office with a black swollen eye. Her boss, Deji, happens to be a nice and caring man. He observed the dark shades and asked her to take it off. Victoria tried to cover her mess up, but for how long? Deji also has a wonderful family at home, but it was a sad day for the family. Iyke just lost her parents, who had an accident on their way to pay the family a visit. And together with her daughter, Ella, they wept bitterly until Deji rushed in after he got the sudden news. It is so sad to witness things like this, but it is one of those things that is inevitable. Michael has an addiction to alcohol. In fact, I can tell you that men who beat their wives are mostly alcohol addicts. Victoria's home now scares her as she sneaks inside. He waits for her to return so he can apologize to her. Victoria was already tired of everything happening. This was not the man she married as a first-class graduate of engineering. This time he promised to change, but can you change a man who beats his wife? That same night, Victoria's phone rang, and it was her boss. Michael had been suspecting his wife with her boss, which were the reasons for the late night. Victoria came inside. He wanted an explanation for the late-night calls. Believe me when I tell you that a man who hits his woman once will do it over and over again. Victoria came to her boss's office. She showed him again what her husband did to her. To Deji, this was getting out of hand, but he has no right over her personal life. The reason he called late at night was because he will come to the office late the next day, due to his wife's mourning state. He asked her to take 2 days off from work, and also get some treatment from the company's clinic. Iyke hasn't been herself since the demise of her parents. Her sweet and loving husband has always been there to comfort her in her trying moments. But this time he wants sex. This is the last thing going through her mind now. Deji tried everything he could to get her in the mood, but it wasn't working. The next day, Deji waited for Victoria at the car park. He knew where to find her because she was supposed to come to the clinic for treatment. The question is, isn't he overplaying his role as a boss, or is there something more to it? Victoria thanked him for being a caring boss as he tried to kiss her. I can tell you that most women easily fall to their boss's advancement than a random rich man outside, and for reasons best known to them. Another thing to ponder upon is Deji doing all these because his wife refuses to make love to him? Iyke just lost her parents, and paying her last respect to them shouldn't be a problem to Deji. But he was already upset and angrily left the room. Deji could not wait to resume the next day to meet with Victoria. He wanted them to talk about something important, and without much hesitation, let's say it wouldn't be that difficult for him to get her with all the brutality she gets from her husband, aside from Deji being her boss. Iyke still finds it hard to put herself together. Caro, her friend, clearly understands how she feels, but she wants her to be strong for her family, especially her husband, who she denies sex. Caro was disturbed about not giving room for desperate women out there to snatch her husband. That should not be Iyke's problem now, because she knows that her husband is one of the few modest men left. And here comes the modest man who just finished another round of sex with his worker. This advice goes to men. If you're rich and also good in bed, be careful of the women you sleep with, because they might eventually become your nightmare. Victoria told him that she enjoyed the sex and would come back to get more after office hours. Iyke listened to her friend's advice. She wants to make love to her husband, who already has gotten a ton of sex somewhere else. Deji was tired and told her to wait, maybe towards the end of next month. Shouldn't that ring an alarm to her that her man, who once craved sex now, does not want it anytime soon? Victoria still craves her boss also, but he was also busy and wouldn't give her what she wanted. Just be sure that the moment you start having an affair with your staff, you have room also for insolence. Few minutes later, Iyke came in and she brought lunch for her husband. Deji is lucky today because he would have been caught if he gave Victoria what she wanted. Iyke also noticed that the portrait picture of her and her husband was missing. Deji also was surprised not to have noticed it. He knows that his wife's silence is her anger, so he called his staff for proper clarification. Amaka was also as surprised as her boss, while Victoria reluctantly replied to him. Even though Iyke could not get it clear, she just doesn't want to get involved. Later on, Victoria badged into her boss's office to ask him why he did not inform her that his wife was coming. You can imagine the level of temerity that comes with over-familiarity. Deji thinks that it was time to put an end to what happened between them, and to Victoria, that wouldn't be possible because she is here to stay. She also threatened to involve his wife if he messed up with her. Deji thinks that it is a simple task since she is married. He returns the threats about escalating it to her husband also, only if he knows what her plans were. She gave him a glimpse of what she was about to do by telling him that she trashed the portrait picture because she doesn't want to see his wife around him as many more were about to come. Meanwhile, her jobless husband was always home all day, ever since he lost his job. Victoria came back home that evening with a divorce paper. She was tired of this hopeless marriage because she works tirelessly to foot the bills. We all know that it is only a matter of little time before a woman starts lamenting over taking responsibility for the bills. But it is also understandable that her husband also mistreated her violently. Michael tried all he could to make her see reasons that they can work things out, but she has already made up her mind. He had no choice than to sign the papers. Now Victoria is fancy-free. Deji was devastated when he heard that she divorced her husband and had also moved out of the house. It is obvious that two things led to her divorce with Michael. Deji was way more than Michael's league by financial standards, and Deji was better in bed. Victoria wants an accommodation, not just anywhere, but in his guest house. The threats were already coming in because he knows that she has nothing to lose. He had to give her the keys to his guest apartment. It didn't stop there. She also wouldn't stop calling him at odd hours. Victoria has not only become his nightmares, but also a thorn in his flesh with her obsessions. Do you know what obsession is? It is the single most wasteful human activity, because with an obsession you keep coming back and back and back to the same question and never get an answer. She just wants to hear his voice. This was becoming a disturbance to him, so he switched off his phone. Deji wants her to put an end to her madness, because calling him at night while spending time with his family will raise suspicions. This shouldn't be her worry now because she has got some good news for him. First, she tattooed his name on her hand as a sign of her love for him. Don't take it for granted when you find your partner or other people doing this. It's an obsession, and betraying that person might lead to harmful effects. Deji was still trying to assimilate this one when she threw the bigger one. She is pregnant for him. Deji believes that they had sex just a few times, so Michael should be responsible. Should we say that every woman knows the man who is the father of her child? She called him a joke and angrily walked out. Iyke was in a mall shopping when a woman covered in dark shades rudely interrupted her to leave her man, or she will face the consequences. Iyke wasn't comfortable with the environment and had to leave. She got to her car to see the write-up on her windscreen. This literally means that Victoria has been following her. Iyke could not identify the person while narrating the whole scenery to her husband. Deji tried to convince her that it was just a coincidence, even though he knew that Victoria would have done such. Deji may accept everything she throws at him, but involving and threatening his family would spring up his wrath. Victoria doesn't care. If she cannot have him, nobody else will. To Deji, this was the height of it. She was fired. Victoria laughed at him because she knows that he cannot fire her without the approval of the board, as she left him to think about it. You can call this the last gasp of a drowning man. Victoria literally has choked him at every point of escaping. Michael also knew the reasons behind his wife divorcing him, and if his marriage will go down, then Deji too should have a taste of the bitter pills. Iyke can't stand the sight of her husband under the same roof anymore, but she wanted clarification from him before leaving. Deji was dazzled with how she found out. He was just lost with the right words. The truth is that men shouldn't be threatened by another woman because he cheated. Somehow, someday your wife will definitely find out, and trust me when I say that she wouldn't leave you all because you cheated. Caro doesn't support the idea of leaving the house all because Deji cheated. There are so many desperate ladies out there who are willing to take over her home. Iyke heard all she said, but she just cannot withstand him. The ladies kept bumping into each other at the supermarket. Iyke was fine with everything that was happening, but everything got perplexed again when Victoria told her that she is pregnant. Now, what are the chances of Iyke losing her home? It all depends on her husband and how much he loves her. Victoria brought in her luggage as the new madam of the house when Deji heard the noise from his room. At this point, some men become weaklings. The fact that you impregnated a woman doesn't mean that she is your wife. Deji knows what he wants as a man and pushes her out of his house. Victoria found herself on the ground with the hard push and found her belongings thrown out. Deji strictly told the house help not to allow her inside his home, and unfortunately for her, she lost the pregnancy. What is left of a man whose home is now grounded by a desperate woman? Is it a crime that a man cheated on his wife? Or should he lose his home because he has every quality of a good man? His daughter Ella was also curious to know why her mother left without saying goodbye. Trust me when I tell you that a woman will always forgive you when you cheat on her and feels remorseful about your deeds. That doesn't mean that you should keep hurting her. Now, what happens to the other lady, Victoria? Deji had to meet the board of the company for the safety of his family, and he was given a go-ahead to sack her. Deji also gave her a restraining letter from the court. She is not allowed to be seen 100 miles closer to him or his family. Victoria still thinks he is a joke as she threw them to him and left. It may be a joke to Deji, but I can tell you that you should not joke with a desperate woman. You can watch out for what she did.
Thanks for watching. Please comment your thoughts and also like and share this video for more super amazing videos that we are bringing to you. And if you're watching from our YouTube channel, you can also subscribe and turn on your notification for more. Thank you.